to Connect with Christina. And with me today is my friend, Richard Simmons with Nunez Law. And if I can share, was flabbergasted because in my head, I was thinking you're like Richard Rodriguez.
Right, yeah.
Or Reyes. But
sure.
Simmons?
Yeah, right.
Okay, tell me where that comes from.
So obviously comes from my dad, right? So my dad was a Simmons. He grew up in Florida. My mom immigrated from El Salvador to here. They met each other through the military, and long story short, here I am. Yeah. But like I told you earlier, it's like my genes, though, you know what I mean? I think literally my genes are all my mom, short, dark, the whole nine. But nonetheless, I'm grateful to be here.
But the thing is, it's so cool because you speak Spanish.
So yes, a little bit. We're working on that with Josh.
Yeah.
Luckily,
I've heard you before.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So it's kind of cool because they'll, I
think after a 6-pack, my Spanish is pretty good. So that's the key, right? Get that little alcohol courage in you and you speak pretty fluent.
Well, with my husband, after a couple of shots, he can salsa.
Exactly, right.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
But, I'm really happy you're here. I've been wanting you to come. You know that. Finally got you scheduled. And they're going to get to know you now. You have such an important role at Nunez Law Group, and I want you to talk about your title, what you do, and then I'm going to start asking you questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
To me, in our community, you play such an important role,
right,
and help a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. To me, I think it's a small role in what we do. Obviously, we have a whole team that works for us. You know that, I know that, so I'm a portion of that, right? So I am director of intake for Nunez Law Firm. What does that mean? Well, that means that essentially I am that first contact for every potential client that comes to our firm. I help guide that process and help just navigate it through the system that we have internally here at Nunez, and just really make it efficient for them. We want it to be a very special connection, right? A lot of the individuals that we're dealing with, they're calling on us for like the first time. They don't know what's going on. Yeah, super stressed out. You know what I mean? Like somebody was arrested, somebody was in a horrible accident, that's not a good position to be in. You know what I mean? So the fact that they're calling us and reaching out to us, I want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to really just approach that in the right demeanor, the right manner, right? Yeah.
For me, on this episode, I want to drill the criminal defense DUI space because I think that it's important.
Of course.
And I think it's important for people to find the right help, and let me go back and ask, how did you even get started in this?
Yeah, so it's one of those things, like this field, it's like you just know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, right?
It finds you.
Yeah, it finds you, right? And so essentially that's how I got involved, you know what I mean? Just luck of the draw, right place, right time, and never looked back. I love what I do.
I love
this
do.
field, you know what
tell.
I mean? This is my spot for sure.
Even though we're new friends, one thing I know for a fact immediately is you like helping people.
Of course.
Yeah, I picked that up immediately because I do as well. Yeah. And it's not something you can teach someone. That's raw.
Right.
It's just something in your eyes, something in here you want to help.
I agree.
And when it comes to I really want to focus on the criminal stuff. There's obviously a lot of lawyers, right? A lot of options. But there's a reason why people trust you guys. Right. Why is that?
I think they trust us because what they see is what they get. We're very honest and transparent with all of our potential clients. Like there is not something that I'm going to tell them they're not going to hear, the next call a week later or a month later. We're very transparent in how we operate and how we communicate. And we're not very salesy. A lot of law firms out there are like, hire me because I'm this and I'm that, right? We're not that law firm. We're very transparent in how we communicate. At the end of the day, you make that decision whether we're the right fit. It's your life, not ours, right? Mm-hmm. And we're okay with that. We're not always going to be the right fit, but we feel like that's going to come back trifold, right? By just being honest and transparent.
Right. And with respect to the people who continue to go back to you, because you guys have a huge base of referrals, people that you've helped, then they tell the whole world and they come to you. What are the other things that make you different, that results into that much referral back?
Yeah, once again, I think that goes back to transparency. Just number one, understanding that we're dealing with somebody's livelihood here. We're going to be super transparent, right? We're going to be aggressive in what we do. We've got the experience. We're going to look at every angle possible to help out that client. Otherwise, why are they even coming to us, right? It's looking under the small areas that probably some law firms don't do. I don't know, right? But just what we do.
Right. And with your experience now, like what are some of the most common things you see? Like DUI?
I think obviously, with
tickets?
DUIs a lot in Scottsdale, Tempe, the college areas, that's pretty typical. The
Why
one thing
is that? I mean, I guess, when you think about it, and I want to answer that question because there's Uber, there's, hey, pick me up from a loved one.
Right.
But I guess the fact that like we don't really have, like the subways, like we're so built, we don't build up, we build out.
Right.
Therefore, there's the distance. That's what I'm kind of thinking. And some other people may have, kind of suggested those are some of the reasons why. Right. Why do you think that it's still so prevalent today?
I think it's that old school mentality where it's like, I'm good, bro. Give me the keys.
I only had.
I'm good. Yeah, I've only had 6 shots and 4 beers, right? Not realizing that's a lot of alcohol, right? Number one, always utilize your resources. Uber, Lyft, friends, family members. Like I've said that a million times, and I'll say it a million times more if I have to, right? That is the most important piece out of this conversation. But if not, like, what do we hear? It's just somebody that decided to make a bad choice, right? A majority of the cases we get, luckily, nobody was injured. We do have those cases, and those are very hard conversations to have. I mean, Christina, there's no other way around it. Like 2 lives have changed now, right? On both sides of the fence here. So, just make the right decision. If you don't make the right decision, then we're having conversations like this, right? And positions we don't like to be in sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, the message there is for sure, don't drink and drive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or don't be under the influence. But also, even when it's just a stress, like mad, you had a big blowout with a partner, a relationship, or you're distressed,
right?
Just don't drive because you're not going to be concentrating.
So we act out of that intuition sometimes, you know what I mean? It's that initial thought. I think sometimes we just got to kick back and say, let me think this through for a second, right? Let me think of the pros and cons that might happen here, not so much in the moment. You know what I mean? I think if we did that as just a society, things would be a lot different.
The one thing that I still have to learn is to not speak when I'm still processing emotions.
Right.
Because I have a sharp tongue.
Yeah. Give you time to process it. Huh?
Yeah. And it's like I want to learn to process it because, man, my words are so different from when I'm angry, upset or whatever to when I'm calm because it's like, but I'm still learning that and I'm older. And it's still something that I need to do.
No, for sure.
Calling myself out there. But back to you though. Yeah. Like, how do you guys assess situations where, because obviously you get smaller cases, bigger cases, like how do you process that part where you're like, okay, we can help you or not? Like, how do you turn people down, take them in, or bring them in?
So, obviously, we want to try to help out every client that we can, right? At the end of the day, that's what we want to do. Sometimes we can and sometimes we can't. The can'ts are not so much that we don't want to help them. It's now they're in a position within the court system that doesn't allow us enough time, right? There's one thing that I always tell my, clients and potential clients is that's the one thing you don't get back, whether it's in life or now, is time, right? So essentially when we lose time on a case, that puts us in a position where now we just can't get involved. And, and you hate to tell that to a client,
Right. In your opinion, like with the whole DUI still being prevalent, right? And it's expensive.
Right.
So, and I'm asking for people like in your firm, do you just have a set fee or do you have not contingency? I know it's not like that way with that, but can you help with a payment arrangement?
Of course. So when it comes to DUIs, obviously the most cost-effective thing is get an Uber, right? We know that, right? At most maybe
you should know that.
Yeah, at most maybe $100 or something if you're all the way out in Buckeye or something like that, right? Because once you get in trouble and you have legal teams now involved, you're looking at thousands now, right? But with that being said, when it comes to overall fees, we're more than reasonable as a firm, and I've heard that a lot of times with clients of ours, how reasonable we were and how we worked with them on payment plans. We understand that individuals right now, money's spread thin, and that's just what it is, and so we get that. And if we can work out a payment plan, we're going to do that. Mm-hmm. For sure.
And that, are you the one that does that part too?
Yes and no. Yeah. I mean, obviously Mr. Nunez holds the key, right? Mm-hmm. He determines all overall costs for our firm, but once again, He
trusts you.
Correct. Yes, absolutely.
I always have so many questions and hopefully I'll be able to ask all of them.
Absolutely.
But when you, not like I'm obsessed with DUI, I just want to provide help and resource. Obviously, our big message is please don't drink and drive.
Right.
You know, sometimes we make mistakes.
Of course.
And when we do those mistakes and then you get pulled over, right?
Right.
Do you want to tell people how to handle that?
Well, essentially we can't, right? We cannot provide any type of legal advice, not in the position to do that. But what we can tell them is ultimately, don't do it. Like I understand, like, you know, if you're in a position, you made the bad choice. If you made that choice and you find yourself in that position, the best thing we can say is call somebody immediately, whether it's us or somebody else. Like, obviously you would be best, right? Call somebody, get somebody involved as quickly as possible.
Like during the process?
You know, during the process, we've gotten calls from officers saying, hey, somebody wants to talk to you, right? Or, you know, somebody's yelling in a drunk tank, like, hey, come talk to this attorney or this law firm. So we've gotten calls like that. So, you know, that's what they're there for. You know, use your resources wisely at the time. You know, maybe call somebody that knows what they're doing.
And again, we both can't say it enough. Like, don't do it.
Yeah.
But, you know, obviously, like, it's just we're here to be like a resource for people.
Of course.
But in that process, I want to know, when you're representing people, have you ever had a situation where, you know, obviously you do the intake, you ask for the information, and then you find that there's some false information that affects that? Have you had that happen where it's
I think our attorneys have dealt with numerous cases like that. You know, essentially, we always try to be honest and transparent. So we want that in return from all of our clients, right?
because how can you help?
Exactly, right? Honesty is the best policy. And we've had a lot of conversations where individuals just are kind of holding something and you can tell they're not quite being honest. And then you slowly just happen to have that conversation with them and say, like, look, we're on the same team here, right? We're trying to help you out. We're trying to do our best. So just be honest and transparent with us. That way we can figure out that solution that much quicker. You know what I mean?
But people are getting like, you know, 3, 4, 5 DUIs up there. But that's where I didn't know of, like, if here.
Yeah. Well, we'll ask him that right now. How does that work here? Like, essentially, like, what are those things?
Montana is a different state than Arizona, right? Arizona, when it comes to DUIs, the one thing that we know, and you guys can Google this, right, is Arizona's the strictest state when it comes to DUIs. In fact, most DUIs, whether you've had, you know, 1 beer or 30 beers, are typically a misdemeanor charge. So usually with misdemeanors, you don't see jail time. You see things like probation, fines, fees.
Say that again, though. How does the beginning part of that? What?
So
1, 2.
So no, essentially, so all DUIs are misdemeanors. You know, whether you maybe not 1 beer, but like 3 or 4 beers when you start to register a little bit on a breathalyzer, those are misdemeanor charges.
Okay.
Usually, if we have a misdemeanor charge, our clients aren't looking at jail time; they're looking at like fines or fees or something like that. Except for DUIs, DUIs are the only misdemeanor charge that there's a mandatory jail sentence on. So meaning at minimum, we're looking at 24 hours in jail. You know, and it kind of goes up from there depending on the severity of the DUI. Now, there are DUI categories that fall into the felony category, or DUIs that fall into the felony category, but, you know, not to confuse anybody, but, you know, that's typically what we look at.
Okay, but like before someone loses their license, how many DUIs does someone have to
So you're going to lose your license on your first offense. We just know that, once again, you know. If
you
get
do?
pulled, yeah, you do. Yes,
I didn't know that.
You do.
Is that how it is in Montana?
After
3? Okay, so you're right.
Yeah,
it's more strict in Arizona.
Yeah, with Arizona, you get typically some forms that the officers will give you. One of them is typically an admin per se form, which is your driving privileges for the state. The other is the actual citation. The admin per se is only your driving privileges. That's all that we handle on that. But, you know, at minimum, you're looking at a 90-day suspension. You know what I mean? And up to a 1-year suspension, once again, depending on how the investigation went.
What's like an example, obviously no names, but like of where it's like when it becomes like, what is that one? Aggravated?
Aggravated.
What defines that?
Yeah, so aggravated shoots it into a felony category. What defines that is typically individuals that had 3 DUIs within the last 7 years. Children in the vehicle can affect that. Going the wrong way on a road can affect that. And that can automatically send it from a misdemeanor to a felony. You go from jail time to prison time. Just not a position to be in.
And have you ever had like a client where that's happened 3 times and they kept coming back to you?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, we do have clients like that.
Conversation.
You know, and it's a tough conversation to have. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's in the moment we don't think sometimes, right? We kind of just go by that intuition, and I think if we were to just, like I said earlier, relax, think about all the possibilities, because those are tough conversations to have with clients.
So then when the most unfortunate things happen, right? When your client is involved in, say, a motor vehicle accident,
Yeah.
and there's loss of life or
Yeah,
catastrophic,
yeah.
then
Oh,
what
man.
happens with that?
So that's a whole investigation process. Those are not fun. You go from having a DUI to taking somebody's life or seriously injuring them. That's a much different process, and you're looking at much more severe repercussion for that. You're absolutely in the felony category. It's something that the state is going to really pursue on their end, because we have a lot of wrong way accidents on our freeway. It happens like every other weekend. You know what I mean? It's insane. So the state looks at it as like, how do we correct this? That's why they're very strict on how they handle those cases.
And obviously we all want that as a whole, as a community, because we don't want any lost lives. However, you just open a can of worms, because I happen to feel that our freeways suck.
Right, exactly.
I mean, yes, it's one thing when someone's intoxicated. I get it. Like, don't do that. But also, even when you're not intoxicated, you're just maybe tired, or you're not from this town, you're from that town, or you're from another city or state. Why did you guys put it side by side? I mean,
But don't say us guys like I did it,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I just live here and enjoy the freeway like you do. But it's a very frustrating process for sure.
But do you understand what I'm saying?
No, absolutely, yeah.
It's like, guys, what
It's
do you expect's going to happen?
Right. It's a good and bad thing, though. So you can't really get lost. If you go to Cali, you got all these loops and all these different things. And if you make one wrong turn, you're in San
I'd
Francisco.
rather get
you know
lost
what I mean?
than have to deal with the wrong way. Because,
Yeah.
my one, and I'm very loud about this because I want them to try to fix it at some point. But the one on Gilbert Road, it's literally side by side,
Yeah.
But I'm just going to personally say that we have to fix our
Yeah.
freeways.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
whoever's listening to me.
Let's fix those freeways.
Fix those freeways, okay? But so I have just a lot of questions, and you can
course.
tell. But with your process, that was my question earlier. Like, what was one, without names, like where it really kind of maybe broke your heart too, because you never want to see people go through
Yeah,
that.
I think it's the ones with kids. I'm a sucker for kids. Like, as an adult, if you make a decision, that's on you, right? When you get kids involved, they're just following your direction, right? And so they don't know any better. They're just doing what mom or dad or uncle or aunt or tia or grandma wants to do, right? And so they're just kind of tagging along the process, not knowing that potentially they're in danger. You know what I mean? So those are hard conversations to have as a dad. That's my greatest joy in life. And to think that you're going to put your kid in a position to potentially harm them or somebody else, those are the hard ones.
I'm gonna age myself for a second. I do that quite a bit here. But you might not, you might be younger than me, but back in the day, I swear the parents used to go drink,
Of course.
and then have their 14, 13-year-old kids drive their truck, you know.
Yeah, well, I'm half Hispanic, so I get that, right? You know what I mean? It's the birthday parties that end up at being 1 o'clock in the morning in your living room, right? Yeah, exactly. With mom and dad, it's hard because we always heard this growing up, right? Times are different, right? We didn't know what that meant, right? As kids, you're like, what does that even mean? That's what I tell my children now. Times are different. Like, the environment we live in, the food that we eat, everything is different. And so I truly get that now. Times were different. We were just a different breed, a little bit tougher. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
We have had some client situations where the person was drinking, and to be responsible, they called an Uber, right? But then someone else hits them both, and
Right.
then there's one, Apache Junction, a while back, drinking. I think it was like in Diamond. It was like fun, but he knew. He's like, ugh, I better not.
Right.
Left the car there, started walking home, gets run over by a drunk driver, right? So it's like people doing the right thing still.
Right.
But one of them, or another one where he was drunk, but he didn't drive. He put his key like on his tire, but he was inside the car.
Yeah.
And then another one where same thing, drunk, in the car, but he had his keys on him. So one got in trouble, one didn't. Explain that to me, please.
Well, yeah. I mean, once again, I think, the best choice is don't drive, right? Don't drink and drive. But no, I mean, there's a safe harbor law out there, if you sleep in a parking lot, you could probably Google that one as well. But no, if your keys are on you, that's completely different, right?
Okay.
You're still in physical control.
Because
of
it's
that
like you
vehicle,
might
right?
turn it on. But if it's outside the car and you're like, hey, is that what you're saying?
No, so you said that they were in the back seat, right?
No,
or
no,
on the
no.
tire.
Like there's one person and they put one slept in the car, but his keys were in his pocket. The other one slept in the car, but his keys was outside the underneath the tire,
Got it.
not in his person.
Yeah, that's different.
Yeah. So is that why that whole different step of the keys not with me,
It's
it's
having
outside?
access to it, you know what I mean? Having access to it to where you're in physical control.
So then that's why the other one still got
Probably,
everything.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, and then earlier you mentioned kids. That's like
Yeah.
you're saying when, let's say, they are started to drink and then they go pick up their children.
Right. If they have children in the vehicle, that is going to aggravate that circumstance for sure because of the children. Now, depending on the age of the children, can determine some factors as well. But, obviously anybody under 18 is considered a minor.
Okay, I don't know if you can answer this, but if when people are pulled over, like I've always wondered, like when they ask them to do the test and people just have to adhere to that and just follow them. And I don't know if you're at a position to answer
Yeah, I mean,
that.
we're not in a position to answer that, but there's a lot of area of gray. You know what I mean? There's just a lot of area of gray. You don't want to be like too pushy. You don't want to be too friendly, right? You want to just do the right things. And I think that just goes back to what we said. Doing the right thing means not even putting yourself in that position. You know what I mean?
Right.
Bottom line.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That part never changes.
Yeah. If you are in that position, though, and you need representation, call us immediately.
And are you allowed to call right there and then?
Yeah, depending on the situation, of course, obviously, if there's a big situation going on, I don't think an officer is going to be like, here's my cell phone, make a call. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's probably not going to happen that way. But when you have the opportunity, you want to seek legal counsel. That's just the bottom line. You know what I mean? And there's a big misconception out there where a lot of individuals are like, well, Arizona's so strict. You know what I mean? You're going to face jail time. You're going to do all these different things. The one thing I will tell you is every case is completely different. From the officers to how they conducted their investigation, to how they documented it, to the circumstance itself. You know what I mean? Everything is different. And so because of that, we would recommend, getting somebody involved.
And what's the best way to get a hold of you guys?
Call me, 602-500-0000.
And we'll put your website, all your
do all that
stuff.
across the screen, make it
Yeah,
look good. Yeah, absolutely.
right across.
Excellent.
Okay, I've already asked you all the stuff for work. Now I
Yeah.
want to ask, like, who in your life has helped shape you to be who you are today? The Richard that's sitting in front of me.
And that's why it's taken me so long. It's hands down my daughter. She's 7 years old. Just changed my whole perspective on life. You know what I mean? My drive, my demeanor, like everything. When you have a daughter, it's just a little bit different. How I just do everything. I'm more determined, you know what I mean? And because I know I have somebody now that I have to provide for. Like whatever she wants, she gets, number one. You know what I mean? So that takes Dad doing a bunch of work, but that's what changed me.
Yeah, your baby girl, what's her name?
Her name is Raimi.
Raimi.
Yeah,
One
Raimi,
day she'll get to watch this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So-
I love you, baby.
And any one person in your life that's really made an impact?
Yeah, my mom. Obviously being an immigrant to this country, you know what I mean? But what she taught me also was love for this country, right? Which kind of doesn't match right now. You know what I mean? She told me, you don't have to have a bunch of money to look good or smell good. You know what I mean? And, so all these different things that she taught me, like washing your face daily, right? Brushing your teeth, that sort of thing. Like, it's just something you cannot replace.
And on the business side of things, like, has there been, sometimes we have bad bosses, good bosses, and both have an impact on us.
Yeah.
So is there one that had a really good impact on you?
I think what got me into this field, the individuals I worked with, we won't name anybody,
Yes.
taught me a tremendous amount of knowledge that you just can't find. You know what I mean? It's just, some things are by the book and some things aren't by the book. You know what I mean? It's that close conversation you have, at a bar with a beer, you know what I mean? Like those type of things mold
That,
us.
you don't drive after.
Yeah, of course, yeah. No, we got Ubers, we got cabs. But, it's those conversations, that we take for granted. but I hold on to them. Those are the best ones.
And is there any particular point in your life where you had to overcome something?
Yeah, of course. I mean, obviously, being in this field, we get clients that talk to numerous firms, and sometimes it's hard to hear that I'm not choosing you. I'm choosing somebody else, right? Those are hard to overcome because it's like, why? Like, I'm a likable guy. I did everything that you asked, right? Why not? Like, why not trust us? You know what I mean? But for whatever reason they did, we're okay with that. A little hard to overcome. We typically get over it pretty quickly, though.
Mm-hmm. And I want to go back to your baby girls because she's going to see this. And to your mom. Before you leave, we'll have you visit us again.
Yeah.
We'll put you as episode 1 next time.
All right, sounds good.
Leave them a message. That's when you have to look at the camera.
Okay.
First to your mom.
Yeah.
And then the baby.
All right. So mom's no longer here with us. Mom's in heaven now, but I'm sure she's watching down. I just thank you for everything you ever provided me with. I really appreciate that. It means a lot to me. My daughter looks much like my mom does. So I think she reincarnated, right? To my baby girl, I love you. Everything that I do is for you. You know that. And probably have to bring her home a toy tonight. You know what I mean? Because of this.
And tell her about this life, and because she's gonna grow up. And
she'd love your office, by the way. Like pink everywhere. Are you kidding me? She's super girly. She has to have her nails done, polished and that sort of thing. Hair, lip gloss.
We'll have to send her with some.
Now. She's gonna see all this pink stuff.
Yeah,
and freak
bring
out.
her, but tell her how to prepare for life. Because
of course, as a dad, any fathers out there, we got to do that. These are our baby girls. We don't want them dating guys like us. We want them to date guys better, right? So that's what we got to do, Christina.
Oh, well, I can't wait to meet her.
Yeah,
Thank you for
yeah.
Stopping by and making time. I know you're super busy.
Yeah.
I'm going to see you on my birthday.
Of course,
party.
we'll be there.
And till next time.
All right, Christina. Thank you.
Bye.